The photo album slipped from my hands and hit the hardwood floor with a thud that echoed through the empty hallway. I bent down slowly, my knees protesting the movement, and picked it up. Dust covered the burgundy leather cover, and when I opened it, I saw Robert smiling back at me from our wedding day, 47 years ago. His hand was on my shoulder, protective and proud. I traced the outline of his face with my finger, remembering how safe I always felt with him. That feeling of safety had disappeared 3 years ago when he died. It disappeared even more 2 months ago, when my son Michael brought his wife Jessica to what they called a family meeting. I'm Margaret. I'm 72 years old, and I spent 35 years teaching high school English before I retired. My husband and I raised Michael in this house on Maple Street, the same Victorian house my parents left me when they passed. It's a beautiful home, 3 stories, with an attic that runs the full length of the house and a garden in the back where I still grow tomatoes every summer. Robert always said this house had good bones, strong bones, the kind that last. Michael used to love this house. When he was young, he'd play hide and seek in the attic, pretending the old trunks were treasure chests. He'd help his father fix the porch steps every spring. He'd sit at the kitchen table doing his homework while I graded papers. But that was before Jessica. They got married 5 years ago, right after Michael lost his job at the accounting firm. Jessica worked in real estate, and from the beginning, I could see the way she looked at things. Not at people, but at things. She'd walk through my house, and I'd catch her taking photos of the crown molding, the original hardwood floors, the bay windows. She'd mention casually how much houses in this neighborhood were selling for. "It's a seller's market, Margaret," she'd say, smiling that smile that never quite reached her eyes. "You're sitting on a gold mine." I always changed the subject. This wasn't a gold mine. This was my home. But 2 months ago, they insisted on having dinner here. "Just the 3 of us," they said. "Family time." I made pot roast, Michael's favorite, and set the table with the good china. We ate mostly in silence, Michael pushing food around his plate while Jessica kept checking her phone. Finally, she put her fork down and folded her hands on the table like she was about to conduct a business meeting. "Margaret, we need to talk about your living situation." My living situation. As if I were a problem to be solved. "Michael and I have been discussing this, and we think it's time you considered moving somewhere more manageable. This house is too big for one person. The maintenance alone must be overwhelming." I looked at Michael, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. He just nodded slightly, like a puppet. "I manage just fine," I said quietly. "Do you, though?" Jessica leaned forward. "The gutters need cleaning. The paint is peeling on the north side, and those stairs." She shook her head. "What if you fall? You're not getting any younger." She had it all planned out. There was a lovely senior community just 20 minutes away. I could have a nice apartment, no maintenance, activities, people my own age. They'd take care of everything. The house could be sold, and the money put in a trust for my care. "And if there's anything left over," Michael finally spoke up, his voice weak, "it could help us get back on our feet." "We're really struggling, Mom." I looked at my son, my baby boy who I'd rocked to sleep, who I'd helped with his math homework, who I'd sent off to college with tears in my eyes, and I saw a stranger. "I'll think about it," I said. Jessica's smile widened. "That's all we ask. Just think about it." But I didn't just think about it. I watched, I paid attention, and I started to notice things. Jessica came by more often after that dinner, always with an excuse. She needed to borrow a serving dish. She wanted to show a colleague the original woodwork. Could she take some measurements for her records? And she always insisted on going upstairs alone or wandering into rooms I wasn't in. I found her in my bedroom once, going through Robert's desk. She jumped when I appeared in the doorway. "Oh, Margaret, you startled me. I was just looking for a pen." There was a pen on the bedside table. There were pens in the kitchen. But she was looking in Robert's desk, where he kept our important papers. That's when I started taking my own notes. I've been a teacher for 3 decades. I know when someone isn't telling the whole truth, So I wrote things down in my lesson planner, the one I still kept from habit, dates, times, what Jessica said, where I found her in the house. And I started looking through Robert's papers myself. He was meticulous about records. He kept everything organized in labeled folders, filed in the oak cabinet in the attic. That's where all our important documents were. Property deeds, insurance papers, his will, my will, bank statements, investment records. I hadn't been up to the attic much since he died. It hurt too much, seeing his things. His old teaching materials from when he taught woodworking at the community college. His tools, neatly arranged. The model ships he built. But now I had a reason to go back. I climbed the narrow stairs to the attic on a Tuesday morning, after Michael called to say they'd be coming by on Thursday to help me sort through some things. Jessica had suggested we start with the attic, he said. There might be valuable antiques up there. The attic smelled like cedar and old paper. Morning light streamed through the gable window, illuminating dust motes floating in the air. I went straight to Robert's filing cabinet and started going through the folders, just to remind myself what was there. Everything seemed in order. But then I found something that didn't belong. In the folder marked property deed, original, there was a second deed, a newer one, and it had my signature on it, transferring the house to Michael, dated 3 weeks ago. But I never signed any such document. My hands shook as I held the paper up to the light. The signature looked like mine, but I'd been a teacher long enough to spot a forgery. The M was wrong. I always made a distinctive loop in my M, a habit from decades of signing papers. This one was close, but not quite right. I sat down on an old trunk, my heart pounding. They were forging documents. They were trying to steal my house. That's when I heard voices downstairs. Jessica and Michael, 2 days earlier than they'd said they'd come. I heard the front door close. I heard Jessica's voice, sharp and clear. Is she here? Her car's in the driveway, Michael answered. Perfect. Go check downstairs. I'll look up here. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Quick, purposeful. I folded the forged deed and tucked it into my cardigan pocket, then went to the attic door. But before I could open it, I heard Jessica on the other side. Margaret? Are you up here? I opened the door and stepped onto the landing. Jessica stood there, her expression shifting from surprise to something else, something calculating. Oh, good. You're going through the attic already. That's perfect. Michael and I came early to help. She looked past me into the attic, her eyes scanning. Why don't you come downstairs and we'll discuss what to do with all this stuff? I'm not quite finished, I said. That's okay. We have time. She smiled, but it was strained. Come on down. I'll make us some tea. She was standing in my way. I had to brush past her to get to the stairs, and as I did, I felt her hand on my back, not pushing, just touching. And then, suddenly, she stepped backwards. Actually, you know what? Why don't you stay up here and keep sorting? We'll call you when the tea is ready. Wouldn't want you going up and down these steep stairs too many times. You know, safety first. Before I could respond, she pulled the attic door shut. I heard the click of the lock. I stood there, stunned, my hand on the doorknob. I tried turning it, but it wouldn't budge. The old skeleton key lock that Robert always meant to replace but never did. It could be locked from the outside. Jessica? I called out. Jessica? The door is locked. I heard her voice, muffled but clear enough. She wasn't talking to me. She's secure, Jessica said. Finally. God, I thought she'd never go up there. Michael's voice, hesitant. Jess, I don't know about this. We talked about this, Michael. We need her out of this house, and she's not cooperating. A few days up there, she'll be confused, disoriented. We'll call Adult Protective Services, say we're concerned about her mental state. She got confused, locked herself in the attic, couldn't remember how to get out. Classic signs of dementia. But she doesn't have dementia. They don't know that. And once they evaluate her, once she's in a facility, we'll have power of attorney. The house is as good as ours. We've got the forged deed as backup, but this is cleaner. No one questions family looking out for their elderly relative. I pressed my ear against the door, my heart hammering so hard I thought they might hear it. "What if someone comes by?" Michael asked. "Who's going to come by? She doesn't have friends over anymore. The neighbors barely see her. We'll tell anyone who asks that she's visiting relatives. In 3 days, we call APS. In a week, she's in memory care. In a month, this house is on the market. We'll clear $500,000, easy, even after we pay off our debts." I still feel. What? Guilty? She's old, Michael. She's going to end up in a home anyway eventually. We're just speeding up the inevitable. Think about it this way. We're actually doing her a favor. She won't have to worry about maintaining this house anymore. They laughed. Both of them. My son laughed. I heard their footsteps going down the stairs. And then the house went quiet. I stood there for a long moment, just breathing. Then I looked around the attic with new eyes. This wasn't a prison. This was my territory. This was where Robert kept everything, including things they didn't know about. I went back to the filing cabinet and pulled out every folder, one by one. The original property deed, showing clearly that the house was in my name only, left to me by my parents. Robert had never been on the deed. We'd kept it separate for estate planning purposes. My will, leaving everything to Michael, but requiring me to be deceased or legally declared incompetent. Bank statements showing I had plenty of money for any maintenance this house needed. Investment records proving I was financially secure. And then I found something even more interesting, a folder labeled Property Survey, 2019. Inside was a recent appraisal Robert had commissioned before he got sick. The house was worth $650,000, not the $500,000 Jessica had mentioned. She was planning to pocket the difference. But more importantly, I found Robert's old recording device. He'd used it to record notes for his woodworking projects, oral instructions he'd play back while he worked. It was in a box with his tools, and when I checked it, the battery was dead. But there was another box of batteries next to it. I changed the batteries and pressed record, speaking clearly. "This is Margaret Elizabeth Harper. It is Thursday, September 14th, 10:47 a.m. I have been locked in my attic by my daughter-in-law Jessica and my son Michael. They believe I have dementia and are planning to commit me to a memory care facility against my will in order to gain control of my property. I am of sound mind and body. This is being done against my will and without my consent." I stopped the recording and rewound it. My voice came back clear and steady. Good. Then I heard voices again, right below the attic. They must have been in the upstairs hallway. The old heating grates carried sound beautifully in this house. Robert and I used to joke that we always knew what Michael was up to because we could hear everything through the grates. "How long do you think we need to leave her up there?" Michael asked. "A day at least. 2 would be better. She needs to be genuinely disoriented when they find her, dehydrated, confused. We'll bring her water tomorrow morning. Act like we just discovered her." "Oh no, Mom. How did you get locked up here? You must have turned the lock by accident. We've been so worried." "What if she screams or something?" "Let her scream. No one will hear. The nearest neighbor is Mrs. Chen, and she's deaf as a post. Besides, everyone knows old ladies get confused. Even if someone did hear something, they'd assume it was a TV, or she fell, or something. We'll check on her tonight, make sure she's not dying or anything, but mostly, we just wait." I held the recorder up to the heating grate and pressed record again. Their voices came through perfectly, tinny but completely understandable. I recorded everything, every word about their plan, their timeline, their fake concern. Jessica talked about which furniture she wanted to keep and which she'd sell. Michael worried about what people would think. Jessica reassured him that no one would suspect anything. They talked for 20 minutes, and I recorded it all. When they finally went back downstairs, I started really exploring the attic. I'd been up here hundreds of times over the years, but always with a specific purpose. Now I looked at everything with the eyes of someone who might be stuck here for a while. There was an old mini fridge in the corner that Robert used to keep drinks in when he worked up here. I plugged it in and to my surprise, it hummed to life, empty but working. There was a bathroom attached to the attic, a tiny half-bath that Robert had added years ago. The water ran, the toilet flushed. In Robert's workshop area, I found an old cell phone, one of his early ones that he'd kept as a backup. It was in a drawer with chargers and cables. I plugged it in, and after a few minutes, it powered on. No SIM card, but it could connect to Wi-Fi. And then I remembered, when Michael was in college, we'd set up a Wi-Fi network specifically for the attic because he liked to study up here. The router was tucked behind some boxes, covered in dust. I turned it on, and after a minute, the phone connected. I had internet access. I had a recording device. I had documentation. I had evidence of forgery. And I had time. I spent the next hour methodically photographing every document in Robert's files with the phone's camera. The original deed, the forged deed, bank statements, my will, Robert's will, the property appraisal, everything. Then I set up my own surveillance. I found an old baby monitor from when Michael was small, somehow still working, tucked in a box of his childhood things. I turned it on and placed the receiver up here, hiding the camera unit near the heating grate, pointing down into the hallway. Now I could hear and see them when they came upstairs. I also found a stash of Robert's work clothes and blankets. He used to take naps up here sometimes on weekend afternoons when he was tired from projects. There was even a camping air mattress in one of the trunks. I set it up in the corner, made myself a little nest. If they wanted to play this game, I could play it better. I'd spent 35 years managing high school students. I knew how to stay calm under pressure. I knew how to observe and document, and I knew how to wait for the right moment. That evening, I heard them come back upstairs. Through the baby monitor, I watched Jessica approach the attic door. She pressed her ear against it, listening. "Margaret? Are you all right up there?" I didn't answer. "She's probably sleeping," Michael said. "Old people sleep a lot." "Good. The more out of it she is, the better." Jessica turned to Michael. "Tomorrow morning, we'll unlock the door, find her, and call for help. She'll be so disoriented, she won't even remember how long she's been up there." "Perfect." They went downstairs, and I heard the TV turn on. They were watching a show, laughing at something, comfortable in my house, spending my money on my utilities while they plotted to take everything from me. I ate a granola bar I found in one of the boxes, dated but still good, drank water from the bathroom tap, and I started making phone calls. First, I called my lawyer. Arthur Brennan had been our family attorney for 20 years. His number was programmed into the old phone because Robert had called him frequently about estate planning. "Arthur, it's Margaret Harper." "Margaret, I haven't heard from you in months. How are you doing?" "I'm in a difficult situation, and I need your help. Can you speak confidentially?" I told him everything. The forged deed, the plan to commit me, the recorded conversation. I sent him photos of all the documents through email. His shocked silence spoke volumes. "Margaret, this is elder abuse. This is fraud. This is serious criminal activity." "I know. What should I do?" "First, stay where you are. I know that sounds counterintuitive since you're locked in an attic, but if you confront them now, they could destroy evidence. Second, keep recording everything. Third, I'm going to contact Adult Protective Services and the police, but we're going to do this properly. We need to catch them in the act. Can you hold out until tomorrow morning? I have water, a bathroom, and more determination than they could possibly imagine. I can hold out. That's my girl. I'll have officers there first thing in the morning. Make sure you keep that recording device on you." Next, I called my friend Dorothy from my book club. She'd been worried about me, she said. I'd missed the last 2 meetings. "I need you to do something for me," I said. "And you can't ask questions right now. Can you come to my house tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.? Don't knock. Just come to the back door. It'll be unlocked." "Margaret, are you in trouble?" "I will be fine. But I need a witness to something." "Can you do this?" "Of course. 9 a.m. sharp." Then I did something Robert taught me years ago. I wrote everything down in my lesson planner, the one that had been in my purse, which I'd brought up to the attic with me. Every detail, every conversation, times, dates, exact words. If the recordings somehow disappeared, I'd have my contemporaneous notes, evidence that would hold up in court. And then I waited. I heard them moving around downstairs, heard them cooking dinner in my kitchen, heard them go to bed in my guest room. They didn't even go home. They were camping out in my house, waiting for morning. I didn't sleep much. I sat by the window, looking out at the neighborhood I'd lived in for 45 years. Mrs. Chen's house was dark. The Martinez family's lights were on, probably helping their kids with homework. The Johnsons' dog barked at something. Normal evening sounds. Normal life continuing while my world was breaking apart. Except it wasn't really breaking apart, was it? Because I had control. I had evidence. I had a plan. They thought they'd trapped me, but actually, they'd trapped themselves. At 6 a.m., I heard them stirring. I turned on the baby monitor and watched. "You ready to do this?" Jessica asked Michael. "I guess. I still don't feel great about it." "Oh, grow a spine. We've come this far. Besides, think about how much money we'll have. We can pay off your student loans, my credit cards. Finally take that trip to Bali. Your mother will be taken care of. Just in a place where professionals can watch her. She's not going to forgive me for this. She'll forget about it eventually. That's how dementia works." I recorded every word. At 8:30, I heard Arthur's voice downstairs. "Hello? Margaret?" "It's Arthur Brennan." I heard Jessica's surprised gasp. "What are you doing here?" "I'm the family attorney. Margaret called me yesterday concerned about some documents. Is she here?" She's not feeling well. She's resting. I'd like to speak with her, please." "That's not possible right now. She's very confused and, ma'am, I'm going to need you to step aside." That's when I heard other voices, official voices. "Police. I'm Officer Patterson. We received a call about a possible vulnerable adult situation. We need to speak with Margaret Harper immediately." I heard scrambling, panic in Jessica's voice. "She's fine. She's just upstairs." She got a little confused and, "Show me." Footsteps on the stairs. Multiple sets. They were coming up. I heard them at the attic door, heard the key turn in the lock. The door opened. Arthur was there, and 2 police officers, and Adult Protective Services representative, and Jessica and Michael looking pale and terrified. I stood up from my comfortable position by the window, perfectly calm, perfectly coherent. "Good morning, officers," I said. "Thank you for coming. I've been locked in here since yesterday morning by my son and daughter-in-law as part of a plan to fraudulently commit me to a memory care facility and steal my property." Jessica started talking fast. "That's not true." She locked herself in. She was confused. We were about to. I held up the recording device. "I have recordings of your entire conversation, discussing in detail your plan to keep me locked here for several days until I was disoriented enough to be committed. I also have evidence of a forged property deed attempting to transfer my house to my son without my knowledge or consent. I am of sound mind and body. I have not been diagnosed with any cognitive impairment, and I am the victim of attempted elder abuse and fraud." I handed the recorder to Officer Patterson. I handed the documents to Arthur. I showed them my notes. I gave them everything. Jessica lunged for the recorder, but the officer stepped in front of her. "Ma'am, please step back. She's lying. She's confused. I'm not confused," I said, my voice steady. "I'm a retired English teacher with a master's degree in education. I have a clean bill of health from my doctor as of last month. I have full control of my finances, and I have evidence of your crime." Dorothy appeared at the top of the stairs, huffing from the climb. "Margaret, are you all right? I came in the back door like you said and heard all this commotion." "Perfect timing, Dorothy. Can you attest to my mental state?" "She's sharp as a tack," Dorothy told the officers. Beats me at bridge every week. Remembers every book we've ever discussed. There's nothing wrong with her mind. Arthur stepped forward. Officers, I'd like to press charges on behalf of my client. We have evidence of forgery, attempted theft, false imprisonment, and attempted exploitation of an elderly person. The next few hours were a blur of statements and questions and photographs. The officers took Jessica and Michael into custody. Michael broke down, crying, saying he was sorry. He didn't want to do it. Jessica made him. Jessica stayed silent, her lawyer instincts kicking in, but her face was white with shock. They took my evidence. They took my statements. They took Dorothy's statement. They photographed the attic, the locked door, everything. By noon, they were gone. Jessica and Michael were gone. My house was mine again. Silent, empty, safe. Arthur stayed for a while, making sure I was okay. Margaret, you know this is going to be difficult. Michael is your son. Michael stopped being my son when he decided his comfort was more important than my freedom, I said. I raised him better than this. What do you want to do? About pressing charges, I mean. You could still drop it. I thought about that. I thought about my little boy, the one who used to bring me dandelions from the yard. I thought about the teenager who'd hugged me after his father's funeral. I thought about all the years I'd loved him, sacrificed for him, hoped for him, and then I thought about him laughing with his wife about leaving me locked in an attic. Press every charge, I said. Every single one. The case took 6 months to wind through the court system. Jessica was charged with forgery, attempted theft, false imprisonment, and exploitation of an elderly person. Michael was charged as an accessory. Their lawyer tried to argue that it was a misunderstanding, a family dispute blown out of proportion. But my recordings were clear. The forged deed was obvious. My testimony, combined with Dorothy's and Arthur's and my doctor's, proved I was of sound mind. The jury didn't even need to deliberate for long. Jessica got 3 years in prison. Michael got 18 months, reduced because he cooperated and showed remorse. His lawyer argued he was manipulated by his wife, and the judge was somewhat lenient. But he still went to prison for what he tried to do to his own mother. I testified at both trials. I sat in the witness box and spoke clearly and calmly about what they'd done. I played the recordings in court. Jessica's face when she heard her own voice describing me as old and confused and a problem to solve. I'll never forget that look. Michael couldn't even look at me. The local news covered the trial. It became a cautionary tale about elder abuse, about family greed, about the importance of protecting vulnerable adults. Other elderly people came forward with their own stories. It sparked conversations about estate planning and family dynamics and how to recognize when someone is being exploited. I never expected any of that. I just wanted my house back. I wanted my freedom back. I wanted justice. And I got it. When it was all over, I stood in my kitchen making tea, just like I'd done thousands of times before. But everything felt different now, lighter somehow. The house that had felt like a prison when Jessica and Michael were planning to take it now felt like a sanctuary. Arthur helped me revise my will. Everything goes to charity now. The house will be donated to a foundation that helps abuse victims. My money will fund education programs for elderly rights. Michael won't get a cent. But more importantly, neither will anyone else who might try to manipulate me. Dorothy came over for tea one afternoon, a few weeks after the trial ended. "Do you miss him?" she asked gently. "Michael, I thought about that. Did I miss my son? Or did I miss the son I thought I had? I miss the little boy he used to be," I said finally. "I miss the man I hoped he'd become. But the person he actually is? No. I don't miss him." "That's very strong of you." "It's very sad," I corrected her. "But yes, I suppose it's strong too. I still live in this house. I still grow tomatoes in the summer. I still grade papers, even though they're not for any class. I volunteer with a literacy program now, helping adults learn to read. I still have my book club with Dorothy and the others. I still have bridge on Thursdays. My life didn't end when my son betrayed me. In some ways, it began again. Sometimes at night, I go up to the attic, not to avoid it or to conquer my fear, but because I've reclaimed it. I've turned it into a study, a place where I can write and read and think. Robert's tools are still there, his projects still unfinished. But now my books are there too. My desk, my space. The lock on the door has been removed. That was the first thing I had done when I got the house back. No more skeleton key locks. No more ways to trap someone. Just freedom, just space, just peace. People ask me if I regret pressing charges, if I wish I'd been more forgiving, more understanding. Family is family, they say. He's your only son, they remind me. Everyone deserves a second chance, they suggest. But I remember lying in that attic, listening to my son laugh about stealing my home. I remember the recordings of them planning my imprisonment. I remember the forged signature on that deed, and I know I made the right choice. Because the thing about being a teacher for 35 years is that you learn this fundamental truth. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is to let them face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes love means holding people accountable. I loved Michael enough to raise him right. I loved him enough to give him every opportunity, and I loved him enough to let justice be served when he chose to do wrong. That's not cruelty. That's not revenge. That's just truth. And truth, I've always believed, is worth fighting for, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. I'm 72 years old. I live alone in a big Victorian house on Maple Street. I have friends and hobbies and purpose. I have freedom and safety and peace. And I have the satisfaction of knowing that when someone tried to take all of that away from me, I didn't just survive. I won.